If you're familiar with my reviews on the channel, you'll know that I include a value score as part of my overall ratings. This score attempts to capture the value of a model at its typical selling price, based on the capabilities and qualities it's delivering, and relative to what is available from its closest competition. With Hornby increasing prices twice in the last 6 months, I felt it appropriate to reappraise the value rating of 2 models I have been reviewing during this time: the LNER Class 800 Azuma and the First Great Western Class 43 HST, to see exactly where they sit on the value spectrum now and what sort of price they should be selling at in order to be considered good value. So let's get into it. The value score in my reviews is in the range from 10 to 1, with 10 being the best and 1 the worst. Each score is associated with a particular price range, and in general I will use the typical selling price available through the standard retailers to determine the score as opposed to the recommended retail price. Where a model isn't generally available through the retail channels and is typically purchased from the manufacturer's website, then that is the price I will use. So let's start with the Class 43 HST and get a baseline for that. The First Great Western version I'm going to assess here is based on the existing tooling and level of capability, so this is what I'm going to baseline against. For the HST, we have a power and a dummy car, and we will look at each of these separately before creating a combined view we can score against. The power car comes with a good quality 5-pole motor with a flywheel, has all-wheel pickup and all-wheel drive. It also delivers features such as directional and cab lighting running from a single control under DCC. The power car also comes 8-pin DCC ready. As we have no HST equivalent from other vendors, I've chosen to take a contemporary diesel model to benchmark against. Dapol's Class 68 features equivalent drive and lighting characteristics, albeit with a 21-pin decoder socket and additional lighting capabilities as a result. It sells for £160 recommended retail price, with a typical discounted price of £136, and it's this latter price I'm going to use for my baseline for the power car. Next up we have the dummy car. As this is unpowered and merely provides directional and cab lighting with an option for an 8-pin DCC decoder, it's an equivalent to a driving trailer, or to a lesser extent a DCC controlled lighted coach. As it is reusing the body shell of the power car, it doesn't warrant comparison with the Bachmann DBSO, for example, which requires its own unique tooling and at a lower sales volume. So in this instance, I've chosen to benchmark against one of the original Bachmann DCC controlled lighted coaches, and I'm discounting by £10 for the DCC controller cost, as the dummy car doesn't have this out of the box. So my combined baseline becomes £136 for the power car and £66 for the dummy car, giving a total of £202, and a price at this level or lower will receive a 10 rating on my scale. After this, it's a matter of incrementing the price levels for the power and dummy car to provide the value levels from 9 down to 1, and that is what I've done in the following table. Some data points to consider as we look at higher prices for the power car. £170 is the recommended retail price for the AcuraScale Class 37 and Class 55, both of which look like being sensational models. £190 is the recommended retail price for the AcuraScale Class 92, while £204 is the discounted price for the Bachmann's retooled Class 47. All of these are superb models with significantly more detail and capability than a Hornby Class 43 power car. It's clear that Hornby's recommended retail price for the First Great Western Class 43 model is totally inappropriate and sits outside the range I would recommend anyone paying for such a model. The price from retail channels can be significantly better, so it will pay to shop around for this model. Even then, the £274 discounted price being offered by some traders still falls into the bad value category. Now let's turn our attention to the Class 800, and in this instance the value assessment will be for all of Hornby's Class 800s, both the current and future, as we have no notice of any enhancements other than a livery change, and Hornby's form to date has been to shy away from delivering any incremental improvements to the Class 800. If they do choose to implement some enhancements to the Class 800 in the future, and I hope they do, then I'll be the first to factor those when I see them. For the Class 800, I've decided to break it down into the power car, the dummy car and the 3 coaches. The power car has a 5-pole motor, directional and coach lighting. It and the dummy cars have pantographs, but I'm not factoring these as they're effectively decorative only and a million miles away from the motorised pantographs found on a Bachmann Class 90 or the Acura Scale Class 92 for example. Again, I'm going to use the Dapol Class 68 as the power car equivalent. I'm going to use the same incremental pricing for this as used for the Class 43. The Class 800 power car is definitely a more complex model than the Class 43, so it's a closer match to the Class 68 I believe than the HST was from a value perspective. For the coaches and the dummy car, I've decided to use the soon to be released Acura Scale Mark V Transpennine coach pack as my reference. All of the cars have interior lighting and there is a DVT here with directional lighting as well. The lighting in the coaches can be turned on and off with a magnetic wand, so that's an improvement over the Class 800. And the destination boards are also due to be lit on this model. The Mark V pack has one additional coach, so we'll discount that in the numbers, giving a base cost of £182 for the combination of the DVT and 3 coaches. This is incredible value when you think about it from a Acura scale, and while Hornby fans will argue that the Class 800 coaches are physically longer, I'm trading off the extra coach length against the extra features on the Acura scale coaches for the purposes of this baselining exercise. So our baseline here comes in at £319, which some may still consider high, but standing in Hornby's corner, I'll argue that these are good performing lighted coaches with excellent detail. All 5 cars in the set are physically different and are longer than the regular coach type. The fact that the lighting is too dim and that it bleeds on certain models is a different matter, and I've already covered that in my Azuma review. Incrementing our baseline again brings us through the different value categories, and again I would use some of the other Acura scale locomotives as reference points, as well as the Bachmann Class 47 being a newly tooled model. Good as the Class 800 is to a large degree, these either are or will be superior models to it when they're delivered. Again, the current and future RRPs from Hornby are not in a ballpark worthy of consideration, while the more discounted versions are borderline. Now I could live with borderline if it weren't for the other Class 800 issues, but those issues do diminish the value for the model for me personally, though from people's feedback it seems they aren't deal breakers for others, which is fine. Dapol, Acura Scale and Bachmann are dealing with all of the same challenges Hornby have right now in terms of the manufacturing and shipping costs from China, and we will see Bachmann increases coming in March of the order of 8%. Right now that doesn't have much of an impact on this assessment, but if things change over time I will adjust the ratings accordingly. I have to believe that the lack of competitive offerings for both the Class 800 and the Class 43 is weighing on their price at this stage, and if a competitor is what it takes to get these prices back in line, then so be it. So there you have it, my value tables for the existing Class 43 HST and for the Class 800 ranges from Hornby. What are your thoughts on the approach I've taken here and on the value ranges I've put together for both models? Have I cut Hornby too much slack here, or am I being too hard on them in comparing them to models that haven't even been released yet? As always, I'd welcome your feedback in the comments. So thanks for joining today's video, looking forward to seeing you on the next one, and in the meantime, happy modelling.